Thank you. My name's Shawn Ryan, and I'm a prospector based out of Dawson City. And today's subject is the Yukon second gold rush. And what really happened there was it was an event that happened in 2010 and 2011, where literally we've seen like over 100 junior mining companies and hundreds of individual prospector types all come up to the Yukon and stake claims in hope to find their gold deposit. So to give you the size of the scope, like in 2001 and 2002, we had pretty well about 14 million in total in exploration and just under 7,000 claims staked. So that was kind of a low period in the exploration boom. But by 2010 and 2011, to give you the size of this boom, we actually spent $460 million in exploration, and we staked just shy of 200,000 claims. And really this was all spurred on by three quick discoveries. One in the eastern Yukon by a junior mining company, and two of them just south of Dawson, just south of the Klondike goldfields that were discovered on our ground based on our research. And what this did is it fueled the romance and excitement of the 1898 gold rush, because people were going, did they actually find the missing link? So this is more or less how me as a prospector had to kind of reinvent the old traditional prospecting techniques and kind of move forward if I was going to keep a job as a prospector. Here we are, we call it the Tin Shack days. In 1996, we decided, me and Kathy, to have a family and slow down the migration of the mushroom picking cycle. And we moved into this old tin shack, and I told Kath, you know what, right now a good story is selling these days. I think I could put my research together, and I think we could be out of this place in a couple of years. It had no running water, electricity, 300 square feet. But then inevitably, the Bre-X scandal happened in the spring of '97, a few months later, and the whole world got, turned upside down because it was a scam, and you couldn't sell a story if your life depended on it. So we ended up staying here for the next 6 years. Now, prospecting in the Dawson area, this is the old traditional prospector you see. In the Dawson area, it's a unique area, but it has some unique problems. Like, it's located in this unglaciated terrain. And being unglaciated means the glaciers never got there. There's actually only 2 to 3% outcrop exposure. And now, given that traditional prospectors actually went around with, rock picks and rock hammers looking for rocks to find mineralization, they only had 2 or 3% to hit, actually to find. So I think this was part of the reason why there was no new discoveries in the last 100 years. So a new prospecting approach had to be figured out if I was to actually survive as a prospector. Otherwise, I had to get a real job, and I didn't want to do that. But to give you the stats on there, why we had to change it really good, if you think about it, the odds in the prospecting business is less than 0.5% that I actually would find any mineralization if I had complete access to 100% of outcrop exposure. So if you figure those odds, and I'm only looking at 2 to 3%, now you can get the picture why nobody's found probably anything here in 100 years. So here's the glacial map history. Just to give you a quick idea, we had 3 glacial events that happened in the Yukon. One was 2 million years ago, the purple. There was one 200,000 years ago, the green. And the yellow actually happened only 8,000 years ago. Like we were just coming out of the deep freeze. But the unique part, the brown area, or the Dawson area and the Klondike goldfields, it's in the Beringia type country area, we call it. And it's never been glaciated. So this was a unique area in Canada. So what we actually did is there wasn't too many outcrops to find. So we actually vectored into soils, and there was lots of soils, no outcrop, the double-edged soils I call it. So we actually started doing test pits, and I actually never got trained, like I have no formal training, and I actually I give credit to the Yukon Geological Survey for helping me out here. But what we did is we put test pits. Everybody was told, if you go to university, in the glaciated terrain that you take B horizon soil samples, which is in the top 6 inches. So when we put some test pits and we went down, I put a couple of them down 5 feet, and we were actually looking for zinc at the time. The first top 6 inches kicked about 100 parts per million in zinc. And that's pretty good number. But as soon as I went down 2.5 feet, it was up to 350 parts per million. If I went down to 5 feet, she was up to 500 to 600. So we actually tried this on a copper deposit model area, and it was happening exactly the same. Deep, you dig deeper and you got better results. And we actually tried it on a gold project later on, and exactly the same results. So intuitively, it was happening just like the placer gold. The placer gold goes right to the bottom of the creek. So this is an old weathered terrain, and we actually had to look at it. Now this is cool here. What happened here was the GSC moved in 2001 and 2002, in the lowest part of our exploration season. These guys were here from the turn of the century, and they were actually redoing some maps since the 1935, since they've been here. So they had a big major program, and I give them a lot of contribution to setting up the stage for this. So they came in and did some nice new geology maps, and they did these nice airborne survey maps. And these are maps that people like me, I could look at and ponder in the wintertime and try to look for structures and stuff like this. So that was part of the key. The next big thing that happened was, I call it the technology breakthrough. And all these three items are working together here, and they all happen really quick. The GPS system came up and was available for someone like me with these old Garmins, and which meant that just previously there was 100-meter basically error in here, and when the US took it off, we could get 5-meter accuracy. And what that allowed me to do was jump out of a helicopter, run down a ridge, come down a side hill, and get within 5-meter accuracy to where the GSC's guys had mapped out these airborne structures. The next thing that happened was there was new assay techniques developed. The traditional assay techniques were we'd get 5 elements. If we were looking for zinc, you'd do zinc, lead, silver, and maybe a couple of other elements. These new assay techniques came out, and I could get 34 to 36 elements for actually a cheaper price than those original first 5. But most people don't use all these elements if they're just looking for zinc or something like this. And the next part that actually came through was we had these GIS computer programs that came available. And someone like me could put it on their laptop. And now this system of GIS, the old traditional way was I would hand plot that on a map, as you see, with the yellow. And it was stencils and whiteout. And it would take you to do 300 samples, would take me all day, pretty well 9 hours, because each individual sample you'd write the lead and zinc and then silver. So you never even thought about looking at these other elements. Now we had the method of processing. Literally thousands and thousands of soils and all 34 elements in a matter of minutes, in a sense. I could do the whole range in probably 45 minutes. So this is what all started to accumulate. Now, this is where the prospector comes in. I call it chasing the elusive Sasquatch. Like a prospector has to have a belief, and that's what drives him. So the Klondike goldfields produce 13 to 20 million ounces of placer gold with no known source ever seen or found. And so I relate, does Sasquatch hard rock deposits really exist around placer gold deposits? You have all this placer, but you don't have anything you don't know, it was like a ghost. So when I got there, to give you an idea, I'm coming from the Timmins camp. It's a mining camp. And you'll have 30 head frames of mines in the distance. Even if the mine is shut down for 20 years, if you could see that head frame, it gives you confidence to dig in between. Here, when I got here, everybody said, no, there's no more gold left. It came out of the hills, and it's nothing left, and nobody's found nothing in 100 years. So I call that the bad rumor. So this is what drives the prospector. The first thing one must believe, that the beast does exist. And then the hunt begins, and then it's with a soil auger instead of a prospector's pick. Now, you had to study the prospecting game, and it is the only, the exploration game, it's the only business where the norm is to fail. So you think about that, trying to make a living. So you had to figure out that properties are like hands, though, because you got Gertie's at Casino in Dawson. So the more hands you play, the higher your odds. But only if you understand the card game, and technology and science are the aces to success. So the old way of prospecting, they actually went around and probably worked one mountain for the whole summer. That was like one card game. You know, they hoped they found some, but the probability was low. So I thought to myself, and I convinced my lovely wife, Kathy at the time, or still is, business partner, that if I could do this with 20 card games at once, and she's looking at me, oh yeah, okay, what's the game plan here? That I think I could organize it, that we'll tackle a whole bunch of projects every summer, and little bit by bit, and we'll progressively grow, you know, try to up the ante. And even if we lose on 18 or 19, hopefully the number 20 pays for all the rest. That was the plan. So, but this was the other key to this. If you're going to try to do this on a bigger scale, like go big or go broke, as I sometimes do, it was training. And the interesting part about our other part of the exploration business was the soil samplers that took soils were always the lowest paid on the totem pole. You know, half the time you made them do the dishes and you pissed them off at night, and you know, you get lousy samples from them. And you actually put millions of dollars on their data collection the next year. So we knew there was some flaws in the business. So this is a picture of one of our big training programs in 2011, where we actually trained about 100 to 120 basically students and university people on all kinds of aspects of our exploration business. What we were doing is creating a commando team squad, an elite squad to go out and fly around. And so we had to teach them how to work around helicopters, how to jump out of them, how to sling, how to deal with grizzly bears and black bears, how to shoot a gun, how to use a chainsaw when you had to cut a helicopter pad and you had to get out of there real quick, first aid. But most of all, we taught them how to take high-quality soils. We take hundreds of thousands of soils these days, you know, that's in our database, and literally we found 2 deposits with 2 or 3 soils. One of them, it's basically over 1 million ounces, and that's like $1.5 billion on one soil. So each soil counts as the next. So that was part of this trick. Here's the stats of the soil sampling program, interestingly enough. 2001 is when we started with a few soils, about 40 or 50. By 2002, I was able to convince a junior mining company to get 1,500 soils in. By 2003, with that 5,000 soils, we actually mapped out a system that was 20 kilometers by 6 under everybody's nose that they never seen before because you couldn't see the rocks. And we gradually jumped this up to 2008 when we made the real true discovery, or when they drilled the first deposit. 2009 was our second deposit that was drilled. So you could see how we ended up by 2011, 175,000 soils. It was the largest geochemical sampling program on the planet that year. And between them 2 years, we actually covered, as you see, 2010 and 2011, 12,500 kilometers of traverses through the Yukon. That's like walking from Dawson to Toronto and back. And we took samples on 50-meter spacings. So it was the largest ever, like, on the planet that summer, but it might have been ever. It was talked about from everywhere. Now you could see this is what it's all about, gathering soils. In the peak, we were gathering 2,500 soils a day, so that's over a ton of dirt. And then we package them up and we take great care of them. So now I'm going to show you what we do with this data, and that's the fun part. I say, looking for patterns where art meets science. This is a gold map that we produce. The reds are the highs and the blues are the lows. And you see that little black line around? Now it looks like all gold's the same, but it's not. And we're going to interrogate this database, as I call it. Here's an arsenic. It's an indicator element that we play with gold. And you can see that the western part of it has higher arsenic than the center anomaly. But the center one is still there. Now we look at antimony. And antimony is reverse. The antimony is higher in the center one. So now we actually have a way to look at this and start studying these things. But this was the next one that actually, it was uranium. It was the uranium background map. It has nothing to do with gold. So most geos weren't playing with this. I plotted it up, we put the data on it, and we were pretty well dumbfounded right away. Because what it showed was we had gold in the uranium high, we had gold in the uranium low, and we had gold in the mediocre, the yellow part, of that uranium part. We had gold. What this actually showed instantly is we had gold in 3 different kind of rock units, and that's all the uranium is mapping. So this turned into, from not being related to geology of one type of rock, it was a structure. It was related to cracks. We only had 300 claims here. We actually launched off and we staked over 4,500 claims. And this company basically, they've got tons of ground to work. So this was really cool. And like, this is the kind of stuff we're doing. Here's nickel. Nickel, again, has nothing to do with gold, but looking at this map, I could be in Dawson City or Whitehorse at minus 40, and I could tell you plus or minus like up to 90%, I'm confident 90% of what kind of rocks are there, and I don't even have to go there. So this is what I'm saying, modern day prospecting techniques. So this is the fun. We're trying, really what we're doing with this soils is we're understanding the land. This is what the results were. You could see that May 2007, there was hardly anything staked, especially south of Dawson. And you can see by February 2012, just south of Dawson, we had well over 50,000 claims staked. And just to show you everything in red is what me and Kathy staked or own a royalty on. And I believed in the beast. We jumped, go full spin here. This is the soil database we're working with. We have over 250,000 soils just in that database alone. And the cool part, from 2001 right up to today, we still gather the soils with the same method, using the same assay technique in the same lab. So the consistency, it's like really, it's a big research project to understand the land. Where has this left us to? Here's the brand new gold discoveries we've done in the last 6 or 7 years. The coffee has 3.2 million ounces, probably going to get another 1 million ounces on that one this summer when they release their drilling results. The white is just shy of 2 million ounces. The QV has probably got 500,000 ounces. That was a brand new discovery just 2 years ago that we made. And all those other little red stars, there's about a dozen of them. These are all brand new outcrop gold discoveries that we're going to be following up on this next few years. So it's like, my point is things are happening, and we're not done yet, and we hope to continue on with this research, but we're like unlocking this mystery from 100 years ago. So thank you. It's like, as I say, Yukon, land of the midnight sun, where golden dreams are found with quality science.